So we are going to be adding some validation data to our model. And the model is the only place where you put validation. Razor Pages take advantage of the DRY principle of software development, which means don't repeat yourself. So we put our business rules into the model. That is the only place that they are entered. And then the views, the controllers, or the code behind the view, they all look to this one place to find our rules. Okay, and it does reduce the amount of code in our application, and the application is then easier to test and doesn't have as many errors. So what we're going to do is add some validation to some of these properties. So we're going to leave the primary key alone. And for the title, we are going to set a maximum and a minimum length to the text, and we're going to make it required. So if we're going to make it required, what happens then is that it does change our database, because instead of being nullable, it becomes not null. Okay, so this is going to require migrations and, add migration and an update database. So this is the data annotation that we're going to add first is string length. And in parentheses, we're going to give it the maximum length, which is 60. And then we're going to use minimum length equals, and we'll set that to 3. And then we are going to add the data annotation required. Now, because this is required, it's not going to be nullable anymore. They are not going to be able to skip over the title. Okay, so nullable means nothing has been entered. This can no longer be nullable. And I like to when I start adding these data annotations, I do like to put blank lines in between my properties, just because it is easier for me to, find them and find all the annotations associated with them. Okay, so to me, it's just easier to read them that way. This is not a required thing, but it does make them easier to read. So we've already added the ones for date. And so we're going to come down here. And let's see. They have some for price, genre, and rating. So I'm going to go ahead and fill those in, and then we'll come back and we will talk about what they do. All right, so we did not change release date, and you may notice the example in the tutorial. Pull that over. They no longer have display name equal release date. We are going to keep that in because we want the space between release and date. Okay, so keep what you have for release date, and then we're going to take a look at the rest. And the order of these does not matter. So we are not going to change the order. So looking at the genre, what a regular expression does, and we have these in C#, and we've looked at them in a little bit in HTML and JavaScript, but pretty much all the languages use regular expressions, and they just help keep your data valid by specifying what types of data are allowed. And so this is basically saying that the genre can have capitalized letters, and it can have lowercase letters. And that's basically what it's saying. We're also saying it's required, and the maximum length is 30. Okay, and so that's all it's going to let you type in. Then down here for the price, we already changed the column so that it's going to be decimal 18.2. Now we are changing the appearance. So you'll notice it's not really required. Okay, and so it is kind of good idea to set that equal to 0. So let's do that. And that way, if they didn't fill it in, it would have a value. And then we've got the data type that we're setting to currency. We have a range between 1 and 100. And we've already changed the column type. Down here for rating, again, it is checking to make sure the data entered is capital A to Z, lowercase capital A or capital A to Z. Also, it's allowing digits 0 through 9. Maximum length is 5, and this is required. So we did have it as nullable. No longer nullable because we made it required. Okay, and let's see. Let's save this. And we can run this. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, the database will not be changed when we run this. So if we look, so all of the ones that say null, if we change them to required, like we did for rating, if we were to, add a migration and update, that would change to not null. Okay. But we can test it without actually doing the migration. Okay. So we haven't added a new column or anything like that. So let's pull up movies. And let's see, we can immediately see this little currency change that occurred here. And let's edit this. And so this has a limit between 3 and 60. So if I just try to do this, it's not going to let me. So that error is being generated based on the rules, those data validation rules that we added. And likewise, let me see if I can try to get it over 60. All right. It's actually not going to let me add over 60. It's stopped here. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. The price. So we have a maximum on this of 100. So you can see if I try to go above 100, I'm getting an error. Okay. And for genre, I believe we said it had to be alphabetic. So if I start doing this, you can see that I am getting the error because it's not alphabetic. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the list. So really all we have left is to add the migrations and update the database. So we're going to close out of here. And we're going to go into the package manager console. We're going to add migration. And we're going to call these data annotations. Whoops. Add migration. Let me try this again. So red is error. You don't want red. Red is bad. Okay. Yellow is okay. So when you do the add migration without the S, then it's going to create that file with the up and down methods. And so this is where the code is going to be to modify the database. Okay, and you can see that there's quite a few modifications regarding those rules. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So we're going to do update dash database. And this is actually going to change our database. So let's go over and look at it. Now you're going to have to probably refresh to see it, because otherwise those changes don't come forward. But now you can see we have some size limits and places where we required the data, it now says not null. Now there is one more thing, or a couple more things I'm going to show you as far as customizing the app. Okay, and these are not in the tutorial. So the next video is going to show you that.